watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread TIPA's positive approach message around the world.
Hi, there it is. I found my mute button. Hi, guys. Happy Friday or Saturday. Welcome. We are wrapping our week up with something that should be really easy and yet provides a lot of challenges. Taking the first bite. So, Pack Team, tell me what you know, because I know you guys know these. Those 6 skills up here in that prefrontal cortex. Let's see if we can nail them for our viewers out there. And viewers, if you know them. Ooh, Shelly's giving us a good one.
What?
Impulse control. That's a really good one.
All right.
Cha-ching. Being logical, reasonable, and rational. What I see, what I feel, what I think I know about this situation, and coming to a conclusion that makes sense, not just to me, but to everybody. Why is this happening? Oh, it's probably because of cha-ching, a logical, reasonable conclusion. All right, what else? Very good.
That.
Making some choices, and not just any kind of choices. Everybody can make choices. Making good choices that are positive, and not just choosing the first thing I see, but instead being able to examine for a healthy brain 5 to 8 different options, then narrow it down further so that I can pick from this or that, and then see if I like it. Yeah, making decisions. What else? Oh, you guys are good. Starting something, sequencing through it accurately, getting all the steps in the right order, ending it and moving on to the next thing. And then guess what happens when you have the next thing? Starting, sequencing through it, ending it, moving on. Wow, our life is just a series of steps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else?
Being able to see ourselves.
Yeah, and not just look in the mirror, right? It's not just, can I see myself? Yeah.
Accurately.
Accurate self-assessment. Am I good at this thing, or, oh, I could use some help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the final one.
Seeing somebody else's point of view.
Seeing somebody else's point of view and valuing it enough that I want to figure out how together we can move forward. Wow, those are a lot of skills.
Mm-hmm.
When do we tend to develop this part of the brain fully, if ever?
Mid-20s for women, early mid-20s for women, and then later 20s, maybe 30s, if ever, for men. Theirs tends to be a little slower on the development.
Yeah, so female brains develop fully if they're going to develop fully. And this is not a fully developed for everybody ever. It's the very last part of the brain to fully develop. And for females, 25. For males, around 30. It's not a judgment call. This is just what it says in the science. So what happens with many dementias or many forms of dementia with this part of the brain very early on? What do you guys know? Last to develop.
One of the first to start having problems, yeah?
Yeah, it's the most complicated.
Yeah.
It took us a long time to build it. So very slowly or very quickly, it can start to fall apart because this is one of those really complicated pieces of the brain. So one of our mentors mentioned recently, it's not that our automatic autonomic movements like our handshake offer or knock knock that gets you to look up. It's not that those aren't learned at some point. It's just that they were learned when you were really young. So you've had a lot more time with them. What's one of the very first skills that we have to really work hard to master for ourselves to gain independence?
Yeah, being able
Eating.
to feed ourselves or eating.
If I put food in front of a child, they may or may not grab and put it in their mouth. Is
Mhm.
it always for a nutritional value, or is it simply a reaction?
It can be curiosity. It could be a reaction. Like even they might put something else in their mouth too.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter. I might put something there, and because it's there, I'm exploring it and curious, but I'm not necessarily eating it for nutrients.
Right.
What's the next skill with eating that we learn after we learn to identify, ooh, I like the white ones, not the red ones. I like the green ones, not the purple ones. And I start to
Throw-
figure out how to manage
Throw
skill.
it on the floor.
Sure.
Well, I was thinking maybe tools, maybe able to.
Yeah.
Tool. I was looking for one. I just don't happen to have one with me.
So yeah, that tool use. I go from being able to, oh, I thought I had one too. I don't have a spoon either. I go from being able to grab with my own tool
Mhm.
to being able to accurately use one or two extra utensils to do more fine motor work, more detail work. Why is it that we don't just continue to eat with our hands more skillfully?
Well, in our culture, it's our culture. First off, because our culture decided that we need to eat not with our hands that touch our bodies.
So there's a little bit of decision making by the culture. What else do you know about a lot of the food that we eat? Do we tend to eat hot or cold food?
You say a lot of it's hot and we can't handle that.
So to maybe not have that sensation on your hands, you learn to use tools. Cool. So maybe it's a cleanliness thing. Maybe it's a culture thing. Maybe it's a self-preservation thing. But that's the next step in development.
I was just thinking about culturally, actually, the cultures that come to my mind are some Ethiopian foods or Middle Eastern foods or Indian kinds. A lot of those are actually take fine motor skill using a piece of some kind of bread or something to pick stuff up.
Yeah,
that ultimately still is the same thing. You got to know to tear it and how to pick up that stuff.
And how to hold it just right to not drop it in the middle of the plate, but also to be able to use it to scoop, grab, and then pull it all together and hold it against gravity.
Right.
That's a lot of skill in these three little fingers here that we learn to use as we develop. So with this change in the prefrontal cortex, with our change in ability of starting something, sequencing through, ending something, and moving on, think about a meal. The last meal you had, how many different sequences or starts did you have to do? Thinking about food versus drink, tool use versus your hand. So just walk through it for just a moment in your own head and share out a rough number of how many starts you had to make to take that first bite.
Actually, mine was only about 3.
You had a simpler meal.
I had a bowl of cereal.
Oh, cool. But 3 times that you had to initiate. What happens if we're having trouble initiating? What might happen for you and your bowl of cereal that's sitting right there that's so easy to eat?
Might not happen. Like you have to know it seems so simple, but all right, let's say I see my salad, right? I have to know to pick up my fork. That's step 1.
Right.
Or if you don't and you skip over the fork and you pick up the lettuce, what else do you have to know to do with it?
Oh, how to
put it in my mouth?
Where to put it?
They seem so simple, and yet when my brain is failing me and I'm not sure what the next one is, I might simply pick it up, look at it, and put it back down. And so meals can be really challenging. So we're going to take a look at Teepa working with someone who's able to do these fine motor skills of eating. And we're going to see if we can notice how she inserts herself to help see if we can kickstart that initiation that's been happening for quite a few years with a tool, but wasn't happening without support. So let's take a look and see what we notice.
Darlene said she had over a dozen starts or sequence.
Oh, wow.
For her,
You had a
she very
complicated meal.
lunch. Yeah.
That can be really challenging. All right, here we go.
Well, you're doing a good job with it. Let me have your fork for a second and I'll cut up your sausage for you a bit more.
Okay.
Here you go. Now, here's a bite of sausage
Okay.
if you take the fork.
Wow. What kind of skill did Susie just exhibit there? What did you guys notice with that hand use, that skill use?
Well, she used her skill fingers, her three
She has some fine motor skills still.
fine motor skills still. Yeah.
Really cool fine motor skills. She was able to identify that there was white on white, which is, we've talked about contrast and seeing if we can get that contrasting color. But even still, she delicately pinched a little piece of that biscuit and pulled it away with just those two pincers.
Mhm.
What was Tipa hoping for?
Hoping she'd
The fork.
see the fork and take the fork.
Yeah, we got to a place where the sausage piece was too big and this was no longer being, she was no longer being successful in this meal. And so let me see if I can just cut it up real quick and pass it back. But
Nope.
she missed that little window. And so now what are we hoping for? What's the key? What are we going to look for to pass that fork back?
I would say her to connect with Susie first.
Okay, so maybe she's going to connect. What's Susie doing right now?
Yeah, wait till she's finished
Done,
chewing and
yeah,
eating. When
done
she's
with
ready
that.
to start again, that's when the fork can come in. It's like, now notice the fork. Because it looks like Susie's probably kind of in that automatic back and forth. Because she automatically, when she
Right.
lost the fork to Tipa, she went right back down to the
The
plate.
finger, right?
So we
she's
don't
doing
want to
this.
ruin the momentum,
Mhm.
but we just want to substitute that tool as soon as I see her hand coming back towards the plate. See if I can slip it in there. And if not, what's the worst that happens if I don't interrupt Susie's flow?
She's just going to eat with her fingers still.
She'll have another bite, maybe of the biscuit or something else with her fingers. So cool. Let's see what Tipa does here.
You got it?
Ah, she put it in her line of sight as well. Right?
Line of sight and physical line of touch so that there was no mistaking this is the thing I want you to touch first before your hand makes it to the
Plate.
plate. And now because she's already in sequence, what's going to happen with that piece of sausage?
Gonna go where it should.
Where it was already headed. Yeah, where it should. Now, this is a skill that many of us care partners do not have. What's Tipa doing?
Nothing. She's just waiting.
She is just keeping quiet.
Because if she wants to engage with Susie, what happens to this beautiful sequence that she and Susie have built over the last few minutes?
It's gone. It's broken.
We've got to start all over again, getting the motion to go. And I may even shift back into hand under hand
Mhm.
to support that first bite again. Now, I may want to use that to my advantage if it's time for a
Drink.
drink
Yeah.
or a transition from one food to the next. But if this is going well, be quiet. Stop asking me for the social because I'm still in the middle of sequencing through this complicated task.
I also heard Susie humming while she was chewing. So she's conscious and she's very, in on herself. She knows what she needs to do there, right?
Yeah, so she's focused inward or outward at this moment.
I think more
Inward.
inward. Absolutely.
Yeah.
She
And
probably, I'm sure, I'm almost positive she doesn't even know Tipa's there. She is focused on her food. She's got her visual regard is at least like this.
it's taking all she's got to do this thing you asked me to do.
Mhm.
And if you interrupt it without thought because we want to engage, then be willing to give me the time and space it takes to reconnect reoffer, and reinitiate to get my muscle memory back on track. Because my brain is really having a hard time starting, sequencing through, finishing, and going to the next step. So that's today's how-to. How do you get the first bite? Sometimes it's just being ready to support in that moment with the right tool or the right piece so that I can make it fit in the sequence. If you guys out there are interested in hearing more about what Teepa does, how does she do this stuff? She's doing 3 more masterclasses this year. The next one is on dental care. I know this one is really challenging. Oral hygiene, similar to what you saw today, but really focused on not eating, but cleaning in there. Nobody's favorite task. Well, maybe Catherine. I know, Catherine, you love brushing those teeth. But very few of us, that is the highlight of our day. And so how do you do this differently? Check out our masterclasses. Shelly's going to throw that in there. And Teepa actually herself walks you through some of these videos and shares what she was thinking at the time and now how she would approach it differently or the same and what else we've learned since then, because these videos are from quite a few years ago. All right, well, thanks. Keep keeping on out there. Guys, go enjoy that weekend. Do something for you. Take care of you. And as always, please reach out to us if you have questions or ideas that we can maybe try to offer support. So thanks, everybody.